Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Zodcast. This is episode 3, and the date today is August 17th, 2020. Hope everybody's staying safe out there. I wanted to talk about first some of the pictures I put at the beginning of the Zodcast. I try to find some stuff that's never seen before or barely seen before at the beginning, just so keeps everything kind of interesting. I love to hunt for hard to find photos. And the first photo that I put up at this particular episode is of Arthur Lee Allen's father, who was Lieutenant Ethan W. Allen. And that photo came from a guy's page about engraved watches, that has a lot of military history to them. And after the picture of Arthur Lee Allen's father, it has a picture of an engraved watch he got from his men that he was in command of. And I'll read what it says on the website about Arthur Lee Allen's father. It says, Lieutenant Ethan Warren Allen, 1903 to 1971, was a decorated U.S. Navy aviator and trainer from the 1930s through World War II. He was a 1927 graduate of the Naval Academy and became a skilled aircraft carrier pilot during the 1930s, flying everything from Curtiss Seagulls and Martin T-4M torpedo bombers to gunman Hellcats. In 1941, Allen became a commanding officer at the Corpus Christi, Texas Naval Air Station, responsible for running a pre-flight training program. In May 1942, Lieutenant Commander Allen was presented with a Mito multi-fort wristwatch by his Squadron 11B graduating trainees. The watch is engraved, Lieutenant E.W. Allen, Squadron 11B crew, May 1942. Allen completed his Navy career in 1947 while stationed at San Francisco's Treasure Island Naval Base, retiring as a lieutenant commander. And of course, I found that interesting about Lieutenant Allen's wristwatch, as the case against his son as being the Zodiac killer is heavily revolving around a wristwatch. Obviously, the Zodiac wristwatch that Arthur Lee Allen got for Christmas along with his brother in 1967. So I thought people would like that. And I'll put a link to that page to where I got that information on Lieutenant Ethan W. Allen. Also in the photos, I have a picture of the famous Zodiac Dragon card. And I know most people listening to this are familiar with that card. And somebody sent me an email about, have I ever thought about that card representing Don Chaney and his friend Sandy Panzarella? And I had thought of that before. I think someone else had pointed out to me, because obviously it's showing a picture of the fictional character Don Quixote. Obviously we have Don Chaney, and then a picture of Don Quixote's sidekick, and his name is Sancho Panza. So that's really close to Santo Panzarella. Of course, Sandy Panzarella's nickname was Sandy. His real name was Santo, S-A-N-T-O. Very close to Sancho Panza. So maybe it could be representing both of them. I'm not implicating Sandy Panzarella at all into this. I know quite a bit about him, and I've never seen anything directly linking it to him, the Zodiac crimes, other than being a friend and employer of Donald Lee Chaney. But it is interesting, and it's worth pointing out that it's kind of weird that there's a picture on the Dragon card of Don Quixote along with Sancho Panza, and that relating to Santo Panzarella. I don't know, just throwing that out there. Anyway, also I have in the beginning pictures a picture of Bat Falcon, and that comes from Mr. Jonathan Belock of Corning, New York, and I really appreciate Jonathan sending that in. Bat Falcon is a fan of mine that comes along a lot of the live chats, and came on the last one I did with Jeffy Ryder of World Pirate Radio Podcast. So appreciate that a lot. That's really cool that you made a picture of the actual Bat Falcon, Jonathan. And I know that the Bat Falcon poster has been made aware of that and has a copy of your drawing, so really appreciate that. What else do I have in there? I have a picture of David Arthur Faraday. That's kind of one you don't see all the time. That one's a little bit older than the ones you see mostly of the year when he was shot and murdered at Lake Herman Road by the Zodiac killer. Also in the beginning images I have of this Zodcast is a picture of the word victim that was written by Don Chaney in the letter he sent to Tom Voigt. And I'm just kind of adding this as a postscript to the last episode 2 of the Zodcast, where we talk about Don Chaney and having the different G's in that letter he sent to Tom Voigt. But and this has been mentioned before, and it's even mentioned by Tom Voigt when he first uploaded that letter years and years ago that Don Chaney sent him. But it's the word victim that Don Chaney spelled V-I-C-T-E-M. So that's weird because that's also a word that the Zodiac misspelled. I think the Zodiac misspelled it differently than that, but the Zodiac did misspell it. And I can tell you that Don Chaney knows how to spell. He made the honor roll every year at Bakersfield High School, which included English class. He knows how to spell, just like we know the Zodiac knew how to spell. Zodiac intentionally misspelled words. Why? Because Arthur Lee Allen did. It's pretty simple. But this kind of is a postscript. It is odd that Don sends that letter to Tom Voigt and intentionally misspells the word victim with an E instead of an I. So just another one of those strange things that's worth looking at. So I added that just kind of as a postscript because I don't think I mentioned it last time. And last but not least, and the main thing I wanted to talk about is I added a picture of a letter that is known as the New Canaan letters from the Zodiac killer that came out of Connecticut in 1988. It also accompanied two ciphers that are known as the 263 ciphers, because they have, like the other Zodiac ciphers, they have 263 characters, and I'll read about that a little bit. This comes from Richard Grinnell's site, zodiacciphers.com, which is a really excellent website. It reads, the Zodiac 263 character ciphers. Two letters were mailed from Stamford, Connecticut, one on April 13th, 1988, followed by another on April 21st, 1988. A cryptogram was contained in each, believed to be from the same author. The first letter contained 6 pages in total, laden with text. Page 3 of the first 1988 letter began with the wording, eat peppermint and puff it in your face. Page 5 began with, you the other night. Here is a section from The Mikado, Act 1, Part 5A. As someday it may happen, performed by Coco, it read, and the people who eat peppermint and puff it in your face, they never would be missed. They never would be missed. The 2 pages that contain cryptograms use familiar Zodiac characters, 54 in total. Both cryptograms contain 13 characters per row. However, one didn't form a complete rectangle, the last line consisting of only 3 characters. So it's obvious here that whoever wrote these letters and ciphers that were sent from Connecticut in 1988 has some knowledge of the Zodiac killer, presumably from Robert Graysmith's book, The Zodiac, which came out in 1986, just 2 years or so prior to these letters being mailed to the police. I'm not even sure exactly where they went, what police department, but it is interesting that before the advent of having everything available at your fingertips with the internet, so it is impressive any way you look at it. And, the first letter that came with these ciphers read, I am back with you. I am rather unhappy because you have not worn a nice Zodiac button. So I now have a little list, as someday it may happen that a victim must be found. I've got a little list. I've got a little list of society offenders who might well be underground and who will never be missed, who would never be missed. There's the Presilent tool. So obviously that all comes from the Mikado, and he says, I'm rather unhappy because you're not wearing the buttons and I'm back with you, he says. So he's kind of putting a bunch of known Zodiac letters all into one, which kind of makes it does seem like a copycat. And Richard Grinnell told me that he's pretty sure it's a copycat. A lot of this stuff comes from his website, and he's been studying this case a heck of a lot longer than I have. So, to be honest, I'm kind of on the fence about it, because I don't understand how someone in 1988 would be able to come up with something this good and quoting the Mikado that way and doing these ciphers. I know there's some back and forth on some of the Zodiac message board. A poster named Rubislaw 32. I think he's kind of convinced this stuff is legitimate Zodiac. He's been around a long time. So adding to the mystery of the New Canaan letters, or the Zodiac 263 ciphers, is that Zodiac researcher Mike Morford claimed in 2015 that he received an anonymous letter from someone telling him that it was a 17-year-old boy who wrote these letters from Connecticut in ciphers, but he was never able to confirm it. And here's the message that was sent in the mail to Mike Morford. It says, and I quote, "The letters that came from New Haven, Connecticut were from a 17-year-old emotionally disturbed genius. He wrote Zodiac symbols on the chalkboard to scare a girl. He also wrote a graphic letter of how he was going to kill her. The FBI came into town, caught him, and he was sent to residential counseling, end quote. So that's kind of weird to me. It sounds pretty contrived that this emotionally disturbed genius is going to make such an authentic Zodiac correspondence and then send it to the police. So if he's just trying to scare this girl, why does he need to go to such lengths? I mean, for a high school kid, I don't care what what level of genius he is. He put a lot of time into doing this. So it is said these ciphers were cracked, and the first 94 character cipher supposedly reads, "Shauna must die for her 50 megahertz screech and her flirtatiousness. She is so impossibly shallow and stuck up." Then it says the 169 character cipher would read, "Shauna, if you wish to know my identity, you will have to put some effort into it, not fiddle and fart around. Here is a clue as Mrs. Taylor. If she remembers who draws this symbol, then you will have me. Good luck." So I don't know who Shauna Taylor is. I think someone related it to a TV show. That being said, the police, I guess, were satisfied that these ciphers were indeed broken. So who knows what they meant, but the bottom line remains is it's an awful lot of work for this supposed high school kid to make. And one of the first discrepancies, I would say, is why did the letter writer to Mike Morford say that the ciphers and letters were sent from New Haven, Connecticut, when it was originally claimed that these letters were actually sent from Stamford, Connecticut? And Connecticut's not that big of a place, but there's still some, good amount of distance between New Canaan and Stamford and New Haven. It kind of makes a triangle, I guess, but kind of weird that he said they were sent from New Haven when the other website said they were originally sent from Stamford. Well, where does this all tie into my stuff? Well, it's because Don Cheney had heavy ties to Connecticut. He had a house there for some time. When he became estranged from his family, his children went to live there. His children went to high school in Connecticut. His son went to college in Connecticut, in New Haven, actually, one of them, and graduated really close to, or I believe in 1988. So maybe he was in town for that. And I will say they weren't in New Canaan or Stamford, but they were living in Connecticut, and Don was living in Connecticut for some time and had a house there before he eventually moved back to Washington State for good, where he would eventually die in 2009 in Washington State. So he had heavy ties to Connecticut. So that's why these are of some interest to me. But is to not be accused of complete confirmation bias, I would say that I am 50-50 on these. Could be fakes, like Richard Grinnell says, or like Rubislaw claims. Why would they be fake? Because there's an awful lot of stuff into the formation of these ciphers that is very Zodiac-ish, if you will. So definitely is worth people trying to go take a look at these and make up your own mind. But they need a little bit more looking at, in my opinion. And speaking of the ciphers, definitely go check out Black Box Online Radio, the last two uploads that Ned did. One is titled Zodiac Killer 340 Cipher Solutions, and another is called Zodiac Killer 408 Cipher Discussion, and those are both really good uploads. And also, I have it on good authority that Obsession into Darkness Episode 3 will be coming out very soon on the Zodiac Killer channel, so you definitely want to hop over there and subscribe to that so you don't miss that upload coming out on that particular documentary. It's going to be really good. Thanks. And remember, please subscribe. More videos coming soon. Thanks.